G'day and welcome back to my workbench. Now, in an effort to get finished some of the kits I started late last year and early this year before I got sick, and then I've spent the last 6, 7, 8, 9, nearly 9 months sort of farting around just doing silly kits. Well, I need to get some of these decent kits back on the bench. So, I've already got the kit and grad out the way. It's time now to revisit the Wingnut Wings Hansa-Brandenburg W.12 early. Now, I actually did some work on this earlier in the year and I was all ready to do some videoing, but yeah, as you know, if you watch the channel, I really did get very sick and wasn't able to proceed. So let's see where I got up to, and then I'm going to proceed further and start doing some effects and tricks, and hopefully in this video we might get the interior finished. So here at the beginning of the year, I started the Wingnut Wings Kit with the help of a minion, and I started using Steiner's to prime all the parts on the sprue because that was an easier way to do it. They cut out beautifully, they fit together perfectly. I cannot say enough about the quality and the experience of Wingnut Wings. It's worth it, it really is. So here's all the parts. I painted all the colours I needed to start with, and they were dry fit together to get this thing going. And as you saw from that quick compilation, we actually did cut some parts off the sprue. It's always a good sign to see a sprue nearly empty of parts. And I'd done a lot of pre-painting of any of the interior using some of that yellow Steiner's, which I'm hoping, we're running some brown wash effects over this, we can get that sort of pretend wood grain interior. The fact is, you won't see much of this at all, really. By the time this thing is buttoned up, I mean, you're only going to have this little thing here, which is going to have a seat in the way anyway, and and over here, and similarly, everything will just disappear. The engine will cover up that. I think there's even panels that go across there. So really, there's not much. You just do this because you want to do it, you enjoy it, you take the photos and go, oh, look at that, clever me. I don't expect I'm going to get mine as brilliant as a lot of the people that spend hours and hours on Wingnut Wings kits getting them perfect. But that's not where I'm coming from. And as I probably explained in the previous video when I examined the kit, I just want to build this because it's a fantastic subject, it's a great scale, and it's just a really, really beautiful package. I mean, Wingnut Wings is more the joy of, or for me, the joy of the instructions, which are just, a beautiful sort of comic novel, and the quality of the mould and the rest of it. So it's an experience, and I'm going to enjoy that. And there's a bit of model making in there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to ignore everything everyone else does. Not like me. Well, I'll use it as guideposts, but I'm going to come up with a different way of getting a wood effect on my interior. I'm going to use acrylic paints, and I'm going to do it quickly. Now, this could be an almighty failure, but I think, well, my method of modelling is I try and find the simplest, easiest, and most fitting with my workflow solution to doing effects. So even though you can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours doing all this great stuff, that's terrific if you've got it. I don't have that time. Between, getting back on track now and working, I only have a few hours in the evening, and maybe I can sort of get 4 hours a day on the weekend. So I have to come up with modelling techniques that will get me good results, or results I'm happy with, but are basically very quick and easy to do. So if you're interested in that, watch on and let's explore with me how we could possibly get a sort of a fake wood effect in there without mucking around for hours and hours and hours and days and days. I've begun by cutting out the fuselage halves, and I thought I'd show you something here which you may know and may seem obvious, but something that I do, and it's something that would probably be very helpful with the kit. Now, Wingnut Wings kits have high tolerances. They are tight. There's no huge gaps, or there shouldn't be. People that have got huge gaps, especially after building the interior and then putting fuselage halves together and going, oh, look, I've got a millimetre gap. The reason is they haven't cleaned out their paint from all the joints, and especially in building up their interior, they haven't made sure all the parts are totally clean. All those layers of paint can add up, believe me. And Wingnut Wings is not forgiving in that respect. So you need to make sure that you clean everything up. So here, this fuselage half I've already done. I've made sure I've gone through and very carefully cleaned off the paint. And I'll also, when I put the cradle in later on, for the interior, I'll find out where it joins, and I might need to just remove a little bit of paint wherever it's going to cement in, because they are really tight. Now the other thing I do, which you may already do this, is the little nubs, little sprue joints that are going to be on halves that join together in fuselage, right? So there's one I haven't removed. That's just been cut off the sprue. This one I've cleaned up, but I don't clean it up entirely. I sort of leave a little bit of a bump on there, because you can be too vigorous cleaning them up and then end up with a tiny depression, which is okay if it's a single part and that's all that's ever going to happen. But I found when joining fuselage halves together, I tend to leave just that little bit on there and wait until it's all cemented up, and then I will sand that little bump. It'll be less than this. I sand that little bump and get a nice flush finish. Otherwise you get depressions in there and you will have to come back with your filler. And by doing that, I often get, if it's a good kit, I'll need no filler at all in joining my halves together. Or at least only a tiniest bit, Some of the Airfix kits I've built lately, they've been really good. No filler required at all. All right, so I've got my two halves ready to go. One I've cleaned up, one I haven't. Doesn't matter, it'll be fine for the wood effects. What I'm going to use are these. Now, you might go, shock, horror, Harry, this is all wrong. Those are tanks. Yes, I know. And so far, Lifecolor haven't put out a World War I interior wash set. Now, these are liquid pigments. They're a bit different. Yes, it's an acrylic wash, but unlike the acrylic washes you may be familiar with and dread from the past, and the reason why most of us would use an oil or enamel wash, because they're workable and you can remove it if you've made mistakes, even after it's dried. You couldn't do that with acrylics before. And, acrylic washes were basically dry so quickly, you didn't have workable time, and if you made a mistake, you're buggered. You'd have to literally strip all the paint off and start again. Not so with liquid pigments. These come with a remover, and there's some secret sauce in their formula. Some people say this remover is just isopropyl alcohol, but quite frankly, whatever it is, this method and these liquid pigments, you can put them on. You've got more time to work them, feather them, get them how you want. They do dry probably a bit quicker. Well, they do dry quicker than oils and enamels, because basically you can then come back in about an hour and do your next effects. If you find a mistake, the remover gently wiped over the pigment, it will disappear. You can remove a little, you can remove it entirely. I've done that. I've scrubbed the pigment off. I'll try and show that as we do some work on the wood effects on these hull halves. And you'll see how much I'm really enjoying, and really these are becoming my go-to washes and pigment effects now. All right, let's make some wood. Now I've chosen the Colonial Dark Sand, which is actually out of the Detail Emphasizer kit, and I've chosen the Soot out of the Rain and Dust kit. Those two give me an effect that I've used, I've already tested on other things, but I think they'll work really well for the interior. So this is what we'll do. Now, first we'll put that one aside, because we're going to just do what will be a standard wash. We just want to get some of the details popping and a few of those things. And we want to see how this stuff works. Now, one of the tricks is you first activate the area with water. Now, with some washes, enamel washes, you do that first by putting a bit of thinners on, or you put a gloss coat. Well, with this Lifecolor, I can go straight over Steinerese. At least, well, Steinerese is a polyurethane, so it's not bad for doing a wash straight over if you've got enamel. But let's see what happens. So you add a little bit of water, say an area like here. Right? Not a lot, we're not slathering it. We just want to get the area wet. And now, after I've given it a good shake, and I already have shaken this one up, you'll find you get a very watery paint. And just like you would with it's not running as much as it sometimes does. Sometimes it'll run beautifully. Okay, well, I have managed to get this actually to work like a pin wash, but it's not doing it here. If you've got something with a line that'll run, it'll run down it. But what you can do is slather it on. Okay? And slathering it on is just a grunge wash, I suppose. But it is going into those little gaps. And even though these are injector pin marks, I know, but I'm actually using those to illustrate the point. And maybe I didn't have enough water on to make it run. So you can adjust. You can mess around with this stuff. And if you've got too much, well, just like all I'm doing there is drying my brush and moving it out. So already we've got basically a filter and wash effect. But you'll notice it's actually still spreading. It's still moving. It's moving into those gaps and those cracks. And you think it's going to be really savage and dark when you first put it on. You think, oh no, this has just put a big horrible big sludge on my model. It's not the case. In fact, it tends to be much more subtle than it first appears. All right. So I'll continue on, and I'm going to just give this a general wash, and that'll be stage one of doing this interior wood effect. Now my wash has been drying nicely, and I'm getting some good effects here. I even added a little bit more and cowling there just to see how I go. But it's given me the effect of a wash. It's settled in all the grooves, and that's exactly what I want. And if you've done this with enamel, you know you can come back and tidy up, because there might be a few mistakes, like a horrible big tide mark, or you might have a big glow and you think, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay, so let's see how this remover works. Now, remember, my base layer is acrylic, it's Styrene, but even if it was Lifecolor on, this does work. I've tried it. Tried it with dried Lifecolor and then the stuff at the top. So let's say I don't want that. So, right, and it's disappearing. And I rub as hard as I like, I'm not pulling off the Styrene. It's not coming away. Okay, and same here, I can be gentle with it and then actually get my brush and go, all right, I'll just feather that away. I can work it. That's all I'm saying is, normally with your acrylic washes, you can't work them. So I could do something with it. They take a little bit of getting used to. All right, so say here, if I decide it was too much. But basically, that's all I wanted to do there. That was just a bit too harsh. All right, so that's what happens with the remover. It does what they say. It removes your wash and allows you to then rework it, repaint it, do whatever. Okay, so I probably haven't removed it completely. Gone. See, that's right back to the Styrene. Okay, so I'll now re-wash that area to the level that I want, and we'll move on. Now I worked ahead after that that first wash was dry, and I've already got the effect pretty close to what I want. In fact, I might even leave it like that for the interior. Now, I did add another colour to my mix as I was experimenting. I've used the dark colour for the wash, dark wash for the wash, called Soot. I used this, the Colonial Sand, which is initially what I used to get some streaks. They seemed a little dark, actually, because I think it picked up a little bit of the darkness. So then I actually smoothed in this one, Road Dust, which is a lighter colour. Now, the whole secret to this has been this magic little brush. I believe it's called a fan. And it magically gives you the streaky lines. So that entire effect took about 30 seconds. I kid you not. So, you've primed, quick wash, as you saw, the wash didn't take long. 30 seconds later, I put that on. Now, yes, wood panels wouldn't be all contiguous like that. I know. I'm only doing this for the effect. Anyhow, it's interior. You're not going to see it, right? If you're doing proper wood panels, you might want to mask off each panel, do your streaky line effect, and then go to the next one. It'd be a bit slower. If you're doing the outside of an albatross or something where it is all wood panels, yeah, you would make each one slightly different, change the direction of grain, whatever, to get the right look. But I've just gone, can I get that kind of grainy, streaky look? Can I do it quickly? Will it work for interior? I think the answer is yes. See, down here I've gone this way. I've already got something that looks a lot less than straight colour and a lot closer to a wood effect. At least once everything else goes in, it'll be fine. And quite frankly, a lot of this won't be seen. So how did I do that? Okay. Well, I'm not adding any more water. I'm just going, whoops, wrong one. That's my dark one. I'm going for my mid-brown, the Colonial Dark Sand. So I started with yellow, I put a dark brown on. I'm now going for sort of a mid-orangey brown, which to me is close enough to what I want. Now, I've wet the brush, but I don't want it soaking wet. It's almost like dry brushing. I've removed most of it. And now I would simply do this. and maybe put a couple of waves in just to break it up. I'm done. All right? And the same down here. And then here in this thing, well, I don't know which way the wood will be going, grain will be going, sort of like, I'll just do something. And again, if I cock this up, I can remove it. Although, I will warn you, if you want to protect your previous wash, you would need to put a clear coat on. But seeing as my previous wash was just getting in all the crevices, I haven't worried too much. I was pretty confident I'd get some sort of effect doing this. Now, this one hasn't lifted the brown as much. That's interesting, isn't it? That is interesting. Now, what you can do with these washes is you can mix them. So, don't do what I do. You should clean your brush out. Again, I'll just clean that off so it's almost like a dry brush. And I'll put some dark streaks in. And you can go sideways, you know, this sort of brush is kind of terrific. All right, so you don't want it sort of too uniform. You want to break them up. All right, we'll let that dry because it does change. But already I'm getting two different panels, two different colours, which is kind of what you want with wood. You don't want everything exactly the same anyway. But you see, this brush, this fan, is fabulous. It'll get you these effects very quickly. And I know the guys with the oil paints do this as well, but you can do it with acrylics. And again, if I don't like that, if I go, oh, well, no, that hasn't quite worked on that, I would like to tidy up that panel. See that panel edge there? I've gone, no, I really want a decent job. I don't want to muck around with this. I've got to get a new cotton bud. You know, I don't want that demarcation line. Like, I like that colour and I like that colour, but it really should be on the panel line, right, if I do this properly. No one will ever see it. I'm only doing this for the video. So, again, I'll go to the remover and I'll go, no, none of that, I'm not happy with any of that. So I'll do that demarcation line there. I'll remove it. Okay. Now my wash is still staying in here, sort of. I'm not going to remove that much. I'm going to leave my wash around the edges. So I'll just let that remover evaporate a bit. And then I'll go in and I'll do my panel again. And I could even put the tape down so that there actually is a panel line that I can wash up against, or streak up against, and get that exact wood effect. So let's try that. I've now done the effect on the other side. And it seems the more I do this, the more I get a feel for it. And the better an effect I'm getting, or the effect more along the lines. This is a lot more subtle than what I got basically on there. It was a little too obtuse, but that's okay, that all gets hidden. But I'm getting a much more subtle effect here, and I've only used the sort of the orangey sand colour and the light yellowy sand colour over the top. And my wash, probably my wash had more time to dry on this one. Probably was too keen to do the other one. I started lifting some of the wash. But I've got really an effect there that I quite like. So there it is in close-up. And that's more of a little wood panel effect that I wanted. Admittedly, I wanted sort of a yellowy one for this. I believe it's quite a light colour in these aircraft. But I've heard 2-3 different opinions as to what the wood would be in these, because these were sea aircraft. They were basically, this is a float plane, and slightly different to your Fokkers and basically your land-based aircraft. So your wood effects will be different. But anyhow, those are the colours I've chosen to get that wood effect. And for a cockpit where by the time we join those together, okay, that's all you got to see. So that effect for me works. It requires a little more exploring. There's certainly more I could do with this, and I could probably get, you know, more refined effect. Only working to panel edges is a good trick, and then working off a panel edge. Even when I'm slabbing it on, I then kind of worked off a panel edge with the brush to try and get a demarcation, put your teeth back in, Harry, a demarcation line. So these are the tricks of the trade, and this was all done very quickly. I've probably only been at the workbench an hour, and in that time I've managed to get a wash. I've managed to allow that's had time to dry. I've fiddled around with my streaks, and I've managed to put 2 colours on, and I've done both fuselage halves. That to me is an efficient use of time, and I've got an effect that is 90% near what, is required. And it's good enough for what I want to do. You could probably keep working with this and do even more. And by all means, if you've tried these Lifecolor pigments, liquid pigments, and you've got even more effects you can do or suggestions of what I could do, let me know. But for now, I'm happy. That will do for the interior. I'm now going to apply this same method to all the wooden parts that are on the cradle for the interior, and then we'll put it all together and see how it looks. And here's the final effect. I've added the same streaky woodness to the little frame, which is a separate part, and I've popped that in. I've also painted the aluminium, which should have been there in the engine cowling, and the white that should really be at the top area there of the cabin. So now you're starting to see it come alive. So you can see my wood grain effects. These ones here I think have worked better. That's why I really had gone a little harder with it. It's a lot more subtle in here, but still there are effects, and it's wood panels, and wood panels will vary. So I think that's starting to work. Now, I've actually cheated here because I have shot the complete rest of this video and I have done the whole interior. But when I look at my footage, I've got about nearly 50 minutes worth of stuff. So I haven't got time tonight to edit all that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here. We'll just call this the wood effects video. And then tomorrow morning, I'll edit up the other half, about 25 minutes or so, which is assembling the entire interior. And you can look forward to that. But for now, we'll leave it here. And this hopefully has whet your appetite for what's about to come, because this interior came up a treat. I am so happy with this kit. Wingnut Wings, yes, are they worth it? Yes, they are. They are lovely. The parts are clean, crisp. I almost forget to bloody check them if they need tidying up off the sprue. You literally just cut off the sprue and assemble. They're just lovely. And fit, I almost forget to dry fit. They go click straight in first time. Tolerances here are tight, and I'll talk about that where I needed to scrape out a bit of paint to get these together. But look, there'll be more tomorrow night, and you'll see the entire interior come alive. But for now, that's my wood effects. That's how I did it. Hopefully that's some use to you. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. So for now, it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.